Hi everybody, welcome to Simply Scuba. In today's video I have the AquaLung Seaflare Mini Dive Torch. Now this is a very sensible sized and pretty powerful dive torch with a rechargeable battery on the inside. This boasts up to 900 lumens of light, which is pretty impressive for something its size, and it also has a very sensible burn time as well. Normally you get a trade-off. If you have a small torch that's kind of powerful, it only has like a really short battery life, but this one's actually quite impressive, and because it's rechargeable, it's one of those torches that you can just take on a liverboard, and then if you do a night dive once a day, then you can just sort of recharge it in between, and you always have a tough, reliable dive torch. I actually really like this. It's sensible, it's nice and light, it's pretty small, very easy to use, and it's a spotlight beam as well, so it's very, very practical. Yeah, I definitely like it. Let's see what you actually get in the box. Okay, so let's take a look and see what we actually get inside of the box. So this is the box that it will come in, and happily for me, it actually has all of the product's information all over it. So this torch is 900 lumens, which is pretty darn bright. I mean, that's really a little bit above what I typically tend to go with when I'm diving. So like night dive in blue water, 900 is a little bit high. But it's kind of spot on at the moment, especially for something this size. Maximum depth, 150 meters. Perfect, deeper than I can go. Impact resistance, don't drop it, but if you do, it should be fine. Battery life between 180 and 600 minutes. So if you're putting it at full power, it'll run for about 180 minutes, just over 2 hours. But if you have it on the lowest power setting, then yeah, about 10 hours. You can use it on land, so this is a very handy thing. So if you're walking the dogs or going out at night, taking the trash out, doing whatever it is, and you just need to grab a torch, you can use this. A lot of dive torches previously, they tend to overheat because they use the water that you're diving in as a heat sink to dissipate some of that heat produced by the torch. So they'd overheat and they'd damage themselves. What they've done is they put in a limiter inside of this so you can use it on land, which is very, very handy. Color ID, which is these 4 little bands here. I'll show you those in a little bit. And one nice thing about this that I didn't realize until recently was that these actually glow in the dark, which is quite fancy. Replaceable battery, so you can swap that battery out. You can get more than one. USB charger, so you can recharge the battery. It comes with a battery, you can recharge that. And again, color kit. Yep. Flipping it over, more specs, but they'll all be on our website, simplyscuba.com, so I'm not going to run through those, and that's about it as far as the box. Sleeve comes off. Inside we have a little white box, and inside the white box so we have the obligatory book of words, which just sort of goes over, I imagine, all 3 of the Seaflares in the range. There's your torch itself. I'm going to take a closer look at that in a little bit, so I'm just going to put that to one side, make sure it doesn't roll off of my desk. And then inside here we've got some other bits and bobs. So if I remove that bit of cardboard, here we go. So we have these 4 sort of elastic bands that go over the sort of the head of the torch. 4 different colors, so if you've got more than one in the family, you know whose is whose, and yeah, it just helps you sort of stand out. If all of your gear is yellow, then your torch can be yellow as well, so you can get to sort of personalize your stuff. Rechargeable battery. This is a 18650 rechargeable battery, 3000 milliamp hour. So if you do need a replacement or a spare, you can get another one of those. A recharging cradle, spring loaded. So when you go to recharge it, positive goes up towards the screen, and then the spring loaded just sort of holds it in that cradle, and then you use a USB be plugged in at the top to recharge that battery. This is becoming very, very popular nowadays with a lot of rechargeable dive torches. You just recharge it with a USB cable, because most people tend to have USB chargers for their smartphones or their tablets, and that just makes your life a little bit easier when you're on the dive boat. If you're on a liverboard, you only need to bring sort of like one charger. You don't have to keep swapping plugs over. You just have to change the cable, and it should charge a lot of your devices. 3 replacement O-rings, and these look greased as well, which is quite nice. So these are replacement O-rings. They don't have to be fitted to the torch when you first get it. These are when those ones start to wear out. So you have some replacements, and a lanyard as well. This is a sort of a paracord lanyard, if I can unravel it. So this is actually really nice compared to a lot of the standard lanyards that you get. Normally they're just that really thin, like nylon with just a sheath on it. But this is actually, I mean, it's not actual paracord, but it might as well be. So yeah, that's much more comfortable sort of put on your wrist, and yeah, it's nice and chunky as well. So there are all the bits and bobs that you get with it. Let's take a closer look at the torch itself. Okay, so this is the Seaflare Mini. It's a nice compact little size. It's pretty much tubular, but it's got this kind of rubberized grip to it, which is quite nice. Gives you something to sort of grab hold of, a bit of traction. The rest of the torch has this kind of cross hatching, which gives it quite a nice effect. Single button interface to switch it on and off, and around that you've got a little halo which will be a battery and power level. I'll show you that in a second when I put the battery in. And otherwise, very simple, very neat little torch. Anodized aluminium, so it's very, very light. It's corrosion resistant, and nice and strong as well. Opening it up, so I'm just going to unscrew, and it's basically the handle that's unscrewing from the rest of the body. Here we can see 2 little O-rings. So those are your sealing O-rings that you need to check on when you're replacing the battery. The battery goes in negative first into the handle, and then screwing it back up. One thing that I like to do with torches is to actually unscrew them until they click, like that. And then when you screw it back in, you know you're not going to be crossing the threads. Do it all the way up. Ooh, and then it switches on. Okay, so that's the battery in position. Switching on, you've got that sort of, I think that's a stainless steel button, but pressing it once switches it on, and it's definitely bright. So yeah, that's 900 lumens. You can see it's pretty much a spotlight, which is the most popular nowadays. You get a bit of a corona as well, so it's illuminating the scene around the main spotlight. So you can use this to communicate and kind of focus on one particular area, but it's also illuminating things around you so that you can actually see what's going on and use it as like a proper torch instead of just a really focused laser. If we switch to that camera, you might be able to make it out. It's kind of bright in here, but around the button, it's actually got a green light. It's kind of hard to see unless you're literally at night in the dark, but that's going to be your battery level indicator. So a bit like a traffic light system. As the battery starts to run down, that green light will change color, and then eventually it turns red so that you know, ooh, I haven't got sort of that much power left. Pressing the button is going to change the power settings. So there it is at full power. Press the button once, it goes down to sort of half power. Press it again, it goes down to real sort of low light sort of power saver mode, and then press it again, we'll switch it off. Very neat and tidy. You've got a lanyard loop which is protected in the sort of the hilt, as it were. So that'll be sort of nice and secure. Otherwise, yeah, good little torch. It feels very robust, very strong. There's no sort of rattly bits to it, which is very good. Pop in the little cowl thing over the top. You've got some ridges on the front of the torch that it just sort of grabs onto. Yeah, does the job. They're not going to slip off. that takes a fair amount of force. Personally, I wouldn't bother. It's not really my thing, but it does give you some amount of sort of impact protection if you're kind of like nosing around or doing anything. And yeah, it personalizes things. You can always like put it further down the body of the torch if you really wanted to make it a bit more secure and really obvious that it's yours, or put some kind of like zip tie on something. But yeah, it is just a little bit of fun, just so you can personalize it a bit more and sort of make sure that your torch stands out from anyone else's. And that's the AquaLung Seaflare Mini Dive Torch. Yeah, I really like this torch. It's a decent size. It's very well built. It's nice and solid. It's very, very powerful for something of its size. So I'd use this either as a primary light if I'm diving somewhere like the Red Sea at a night dive, because that has plenty of power, or if I'm diving somewhere in the UK with poor visibility, this would make a great backup torch because that will tuck away nice and neatly. Yeah, you get all the sort of accessories that come with it. A really nice lanyard. Normally you don't get anything close to this kind of quality of lanyard, so that's a nice selling point as well. The rechargeable cradle as well is really handy. The customizable color kits, that's a nice feature. Probably not something that I'd use personally, but that's just my personal preference. So yeah, it's a good sort of all-rounder. Yeah, I definitely recommend it. There's going to be more specs sort of on it, with its weight, its measurements, all that kind of stuff on our website, simplyscuba.com. There's going to be a link down in the description to that. So yeah, definitely check this torch out. This is the AquaLung Seaflare Mini. Thanks for watching, and safe diving.